The reality of this shocking story begins, and we see Amelia and Alina were the kind of best friends everyone envied, inseparable, supportive, and seemingly unbreakable. But when Amelia was found dead at the bottom of her staircase, and Elena's name surfaced in chilling whispers, their perfect friendship unraveled into a tale of betrayal, greed, and murder that left the entire town of Oakham reeling. Oid was the kind of town that seemed plucked from the pages of a lifestyle magazine. Its neatly trimmed hedges, pristine sidewalks, and tree-lined streets painted a picture of serenity. It was a place where neighbors greeted each other with warm smiles. The scent of freshly baked cookies wafted from open kitchen windows, and the sound of children's laughter filled the air. For years, residents believed their little slice of suburban paradise was immune to the chaos that plagued the outside world. They took comfort in the belief that Oak was safe, wholesome, and untouched. Able among its well-loved residents were Amelia and Alina, best friends since their college years. The two women were practically inseparable. Amelia was the heart of the community, school teacher known for her boundless kindness and dedication to her students. She organized bake sales, volunteered at the library, and never missed a chance to lend a helping hand. Alina, on the other hand, brought a spark of entrepreneurial energy to Oak. She ran a boutique that had become the go-to spot for locals in search of unique gifts or stylish accessories. Together, Amelia and Alina embodied everything good about Oid's generosity, ambition, and a sense of belonging. For years, their friendship was the stuff of admiration. They attended each other's family gatherings, hosted book clubs, and shared their dreams over countless cups of coffee. To outsiders, their bond seemed unshakable, a beacon of trust and loyalty. But beneath the surface, things were not as perfect as they appeared. Subtle tensions had begun to brew, small, imperceptible shifts that only a keen observer might notice. Averted glances, moments of unspoken discomfort, and the occasional strained laugh hinted at a fracture no one wanted to acknowledge. It was a rainy November evening when the illusion of Oid's perfection was shattered. The storm had rolled in unexpectedly, drenching the town in heavy sheets of rain. Most residents had taken refuge indoors, huddled under blankets with cups of hot cocoa. That night, Amelia's house stood eerily dark. Neighbors noticed, but thought little of it. Perhaps she was out of town, or maybe she had gone to bed. Early the next morning, the truth emerged in the most horrifying way. A concerned colleague, alarmed by Amelia's absence at work and her failure to respond to calls, stopped by her house. What they found inside would haunt Oak Ridge forever. Amelia's body lay crumpled at the foot of the stairs, her lifeless eyes staring at nothing. At first glance, it appeared to be a tragic accident. The damp floor near the entryway suggested she had slipped in the storm, falling to her untimely death. The town mourned her loss deeply, rallying around her family and friends. The funeral was a somber affair with dozens of tearful tributes to a woman whose warmth had touched so many lives. But even as the community grieved, there were whispers, faint murmurs, that something about Amelia's death didn't sit right. It was a feeling intangible yet persistent that refused to be silenced. 3 weeks after Amelia funeral, the residents of Oak Ridge were still grappling with her sudden and tragic death. The school where she had taught hung a memorial plaque in her honor, and her students created a garden of paper flowers as a tribute to their beloved teacher. Despite these gestures, an uneasy pall remained over the town. Amelia's death, initially dismissed as an unfortunate accident, began to raise quiet questions. Why had someone as cautious as Amelia fallen so easily? Why had no one heard anything that night, not even the faintest cry for help? For most, these thoughts were fleeting, but for Amelia's sister Zoe, they were impossible to ignore. Zoe had always been close to her younger sister, often describing their bond as unshakable. In the weeks following the funeral, she found herself drawn to Amelia's home, a place now heavy with silence. It was during one of these visits, as Zoe sifted through Amelia's belongings, that she stumbled upon something strange tucked inside a drawer. In Amelia's desk was a plain, unmarked envelope. Inside, it was a handwritten letter that sent chills down Zoe's spine. The letter was dated just 2 weeks before Amelia's death. In it, Amelia expressed fear and emotion so out of character that it was almost unrecognizable. She wrote about feeling watched, as if someone had been following her. Amelia described how small, unsettling event had begun to disrupt her sense of safety. Windows left open that she was sure she had closed, furniture slightly moved, and the nagging feeling that someone had been in her house when she wasn't home. She didn't name anyone directly, but mentioned that she believed the person responsible was someone she knew. The last line of the letter was the most chilling: "If something happens to me, it won't be an accident." Zoe immediately took the letter to the authorities, though initially skeptical. The police decided to reopen the case. Investigators returned to Amelia's home, this time with a more critical eye. What they found confirmed Zoe's suspicions. The scene was far from what one would expect in a simple accident. Scuff marks on the hardwood floor near the stairs suggested a struggle, as if Amelia had been trying to resist someone's grip. Beneath the couch, a shattered vase was discovered, its shards covered in dried blood, and on the banister, barely visible to the naked eye, was a fingerprint that didn't match Amelia or anyone in her household. The findings sent ripples through the community. Amelia's death was no longer a tragic accident. It was now suspected homicide. Forensic teams combed through the house and surrounding property, searching for additional evidence. Meanwhile, the town was abuzz with speculation. Who could have wanted me dead, and why? The police began to piece together timeline of Amelia's final days, interviewing friends, neighbors, and colleagues. Suspicion started to fall on those closest to her, as is often the case in such investigations. Every whispered secret, every hidden grievance, and every strained relationship came under scrutiny. Slowly, the picture of Amelia's seemingly perfect life began to crack, revealing shadows that no one had expected to find. The discovery of foul play in Amelia's death shook Oak Ridge to its core. It was unthinkable that someone might have deliberately harmed a kind-hearted teacher who had been a beloved figure in the community. As the investigation intensified, the police turned their focus to the fingerprint found on the banister. It was a crucial piece of evidence, and the results from the forensic lab didn't take long to arrive. The print belonged to Easton, a local handyman with a history that quickly raised eyebrows. Easton was known around Oak for being reliable with repairs and odd jobs, but his personal life was less stable. Recently, he had gone through a turbulent breakup with Alina, Amelia's best friend. While most saw Easton as quiet and hardworking, there were whispers about his temper, especially after the breakup. Alina had mentioned to a few people that Easton had trouble letting go and could be unpredictable when pushed. When questioned, Easton denied ever setting foot in Amelia's home, insisting he had no reason to be there. However, his alibi for the night of Amelia's death was far from solid. He claimed he had been working late on a renovation project across town, but his employer stated that Easton had left hours before the estimated time of Amelia's death. Compounding the suspicion, a neighbor's security camera had captured Easton's van parked a short distance from Amelia's house. That very evening, the evidence against Easton seemed to grow by the day, but his connection to Amelia was puzzling. Apart from his ties to Alina, there was no clear motive for why he would harm Amelia. However, investigators soon discovered that Easton and Amelia had crossed paths more often than anyone realized. Witnesses reported seeing Easton at a local cafe where Amelia was a regular, and receipts confirmed that they had been there at the same time on more than one occasion. There were even whispers that Easton had done some repair work at Amelia's house months before her death. The narrative took a darker turn when investigators uncovered a journal Amelia had been keeping in the weeks leading up to her death. In one entry, she mentioned feeling uneasy about someone she described as an outsider trying to insert themselves into my life. While she didn't name Easton directly, the description seemed to fit him. This revelation deepened the suspicion that Easton had been fixated on Amelia. Despite these findings, Easton's behavior during questioning remained puzzling. While evasive at times, he didn't display the hallmarks of someone caught in a lie. Instead, his confusion seemed genuine. He admitted to being near Amelia's house, but claimed it was purely coincidental, insisting he had no reason to hurt her. The town was divided. Some believed Easton was a victim of circumstantial evidence, a man with a troubled past, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Others were convinced that his history with Alina and his proximity to Amelia home pointed to a sinister obsession. As the investigation progressed, the focus on Easton seemed airtight until a new discovery shattered everything the police thought they knew. Just as the case seemed to be closing in on Easton Roberts, a discovery emerged that unraveled the investigation's neatly tied threads. Detectives had been combing through Amelia financial records, looking for anything that might indicate a deeper motive or reveal interactions with Easton. What they found instead led them to someone far closer to Amelia, her best friend Alina. On the surface, Alina was the epitome of success and charm, running a popular boutique and maintaining an impeccable image within the community. Yet, behind the polished exterior lay a trail of financial trouble that had been quietly building for years. Bank statements revealed a troubling pattern: credit card debt far exceeding her income, a series of missed loan payments, and an increasingly desperate attempt to keep her boutique afloat. One detail stood out above all. Alina had been named as the primary beneficiary on Amelia's life insurance policy, a decision Amelia had made out of trust and friendship. The policy, worth a substantial amount, had been updated just months before Amelia's death. To investigators, the timing was impossible. To ignore it raised a chilling question. Had Alina exploited me as generosity and trust for financial gain? The case against Jesse deepened when surveillance footage from a local hardware store came to light. The footage, taken only a few days before Amelia's death, showed Alina purchasing a length of rope, a pair of gloves, and other items that investigators believed could be linked to the crime. When questioned, Alina claimed that purchases were unrelated and meant for routine home repairs, but the items themselves, combined with her financial struggles, painted a damning picture. Further evidence came from interviews with Amelia's neighbors. One neighbor reported seeing Alina leaving Amelia's house late at night on the evening of her death, something Alina had failed to mention in her initial statements. While this could have been explained away as a friendly visit, the omission raised red flags when pressed. Elena's answers became increasingly inconsistent, and her once confident demeanor began to crack. What truly unraveled Elena's facade, however, was a closer look at the timeline surrounding Amelia's death. Phone records showed that Alina had called Amelia multiple times on the evening of her death, despite previously stating she had not spoken to her that day. The calls stopped abruptly around the time investigators believed Amelia had died. Combined with forensic evidence linking fibers from Elena's clothing to the crime scene, the circumstantial case against her began to solidify. The narrative took a shocking turn when it was revealed that Alina had recently contacted Easton Roberts asking for his help with odd jobs at her boutique. Investigators suspected that Alina had deliberately tried to draw Easton closer to the situation, planting his fingerprint on the banister at Amelia's house to redirect suspicion toward him. The once clear picture of Easton as the primary suspect began to fade as Elena's calculated manipulation came into focus. Her attempts to frame Easton while benefiting from Amelia's death exposed a sinister side to the friendship that Oakridge had once idealized. Alina had built a perfect image, but now that image was collapsing, leaving behind a tangled web of lies, greed, and betrayal. The unraveling of Alina's carefully constructed life marked the turning point in the investigation into Amelia.